This is Dr. David Oster, and this is a presentation that I put together discussing ankle sprains. This is the fourth part of a four-part series. This particular part discusses proprioception or balance exercises. This video was produced by myself, Dr. David Oster at Denver-Vail Orthopedics, in conjunction with Wes Riggs and Dennis Martin, physical therapists at Proactive Physical Therapy. In review, Part 1 discussed the mechanism of injury of ankle sprains, basically how they occur. It discussed what ligaments are commonly injured, and it discussed initial treatment for ankle sprains, which included rest, ice, compression, and elevation. In Part 2, I discussed stretching exercises to improve the range of motion. These stretching exercises help improve the range of motion, and with the improvement in range of motion, a patient will notice a decrease in the swelling and pain associated with an ankle sprain. Part 3 then discussed strengthening exercises. This final part, Part 4, will discuss proprioception exercises or balancing exercises. These exercises should be initiated once the pain and swelling and range of motion improves and after the strength improves with the strengthening exercises. The goal of the proprioceptive exercises is to improve balance. Unlike strengthening exercises that works on one group of muscles, the proprioceptive exercises works on several groups of muscles and gets the muscles to work together to lessen the risk of future ankle sprains. The following are videos that demonstrate these proprioceptive exercises. The first video goes over the basic proprioceptive exercises, while the second video shows more advanced exercises and exercises that are prophylactic to prevent future ankle sprains.
Once a patient has really started to transition into a healing phase where they're walking more normally, they're really starting to get back to a more normal lifestyle with this, we want to challenge their balance, or what we call proprioception. Ultimately, what we like to do is have a person without their shoe on and or sock. So you want to get barefoot. We like to give a solid base of support, so a flat surface first. And ultimately, we call this a little toe touch progression. Wes is going to have his injured foot down, and he's going to reach to his left as far as he can go with a toe touch and just touch gently. His foot is going to be off the ground, and then he's going to reach on a diagonal, touch his heel. If that's too much, he can reach and touch with his toe, which will be easier. Into 12 o'clock. And then across his body in a more advanced state. This one may be a little bit more challenging and needs to be something that you can handle in a phase of healing. So people are usually functioning quite well at this point. People can put tape, different little landmarks, or just imagine kind of a face of a clock and reaching at the different landmarks to throw their body into a different base of support or challenge their base of support. At this point, we can transition into a more advanced balance exercise, which involves moving the trunk. This is certainly more challenging and to advance your balance or proprioception into a later phase of healing. Wes is going to reach with two hands to 12 o'clock, touching the floor and coming back up. He will then work to his left and further to his left, 90 degrees from the top of his toe. There you go. He can also work to his right and to his extreme right side. Again, this is a more advanced balance activity. All of these exercises serve as good prevention for to prevent recurrent ankle sprain, altering the base of support or putting an uneven surface, a pillow, towels, could be a mat, a host of different options. But put something down to alter his base of support, and Wes will perform the same reaching activities with an altered surface. And again, this is a great preventative tool for people who are participating in sports where ankle injuries are quite common.
So those videos help demonstrate proprioceptive exercises that are important to improve balance after an ankle sprain. These exercises get the muscles to start to work together to prevent future ankle sprains. In review, I have produced 4 videos that went over the treatment of ankle sprains. The first presentation discussed the mechanism of injury, as well as the initial treatment, including rest, ice, compression, and elevation. The second video discussed stretching exercises for range of motion, and the third video discussed strengthening exercises. These presentations were produced by myself, Dr. David Oster, in conjunction with Dennis Martin and Wes Riggs, physical therapists at Proactive Physical Therapy. If you'd like to look at other text or video that discuss and review other orthopedic disorders, please visit my website, davidostermd.com. For an office appointment or evaluation, 303-214-4500.